everybody. This is Roger with Snare Trump Surviving Human Outdoors. Back again for another podcast and talk about the coronavirus again. I talked about this a little while back, and I even said this is going to get bad. And I've seen so many people that have apathy. That's the lack of concern for something like this. Apathy is a killer. In my last podcast, I explained the stages that people go through with a situation like this. Apathy being the first part of that stage. And when you have apathy, you don't prepare for something like this. And then you realize that there's a problem, and when you realize there's a problem, realization, the second part of that stage, then you're too far behind in the game. And you start trying to gather all the supplies that you need, and you realize that you don't have what you need, and you're not going to be able to get what you need. Then you're going to go to the third stage, and that's fear. Now that third stage causes you to start to do a lot of crazy things. You change. Your way of thinking changes. You start looking across the street at your neighbor and realizing your neighbor's got supplies. And you start thinking about how you're going to get them. And then when you realize that you're going to have to go over and battle for it, and panic sets in. And then all the other people in the town surrounding you, panic sets in for them as well. And when panic sets in, you go into the final stage, chaos. And chaos is where people get killed. And it all could have been avoided to begin with if you had just gotten rid of apathy. I seen a former colleague of mine posted on Facebook, and it said something like, I don't see why everybody's panicking. This is just the flu. It amazes me at how many people have not followed the news, and how many people have not listened when the CDC is telling you this is not the flu. It has flu-like symptoms. It is not the flu. It is 10 times worse than the flu. And it kills the weak. It kills the elderly. And these people are just so out of touch with reality. It's just the flu, they say. That's the very reason that you see this alarmingly huge leap in the amount of infected people in the United States, because nobody was concerned about it. It's just the flu. So that apathy caused them to not take precautions, and they got themselves infected. And then they spread it to their friends, and their friends spread it to their friends, and their friends spread it to their friends. And we're going to see this thing grow. It's going to grow exponentially, trust me. I just received word today that the University of Tennessee campus is closing down. And shortly right after that, I received word that Pellissippi State Community College is closing down. And then watching the news, I see that the NBA is shutting down. And I'm wondering to myself, they're talking about a lot of different venues shutting down. Restaurants and things of that nature. Concerts, no more concerts. Places where people can gather in mass, shoulder to shoulder. It's not going to happen no more. You're going to see the government stepping in and saying no. So we're in that stage now in realization. We're starting to realize there's something serious going on here. So I'm wondering to myself as I sit here tonight at 1 a.m. in the morning, tucked away in the backwoods of East Tennessee. I wonder, in these big cities, when are they going to go into fear mode? I think a lot of people are already in the fear mode. Realization set in these last few days, and I think fear is starting to set in. Because I had an officer told me they were in downtown Knoxville, Tennessee, and they were seeing supplies in the stores were getting low. And funny thing is the toilet paper thing. I don't know what you're going to do with toilet paper when this virus hits, unless you're planning on making a mask. You can't eat it. I think I would rather be stocking up on food supplies or ways to make it off-grid if I had to go off-grid. Traps, snares, survival equipment, things like that. Not toilet paper. You see, the survivalist is going to make sure he has the tools. And if it comes down to it and you don't have toilet paper, there's an old rule called two-finger sling. You don't have to have toilet paper. I just don't understand why these people are buying up toilet paper. That's the people that's going to die off first. We're going to have to start, if this pops off like we're thinking, we're going to have to start looking at things from a different perspective. One of the first things in survival that's going to happen to you is you're going to have to change who you are. You're going to have to become a different person. And I have people right here in my family that they're in the apathy stage even still. They have no clue. They could not even tell you what the coronavirus is. They couldn't tell you where the coronavirus came from. They've not been following the media. They don't know. They're sitting with their noses jabbed in Facebook and YouTube, and they have no clue. And when you talk to them about it, they look at you with this blank stare on their face. And I think to myself, bless their hearts, they're going to be some of the first people to go. And there's no way that they could change the way they think and who they are, because they can't even grip reality of what's going on around them right now. But for those of you that's listening that do understand, you're going to have to change who you are. I was just discussing this tonight with my father. And I'm saying hypothetically you're at a compound. You've decided to bug out. You're going to keep people away from you as much as you can until this virus passes. And outside, you see someone walking up through the field and you realize it's a family member. So do you just open the door and say, "Come on in, Bob, your cousin, come on in"? No. You're going to have to change the way you think. You're going to have to change the frame of your mind. You're going to have to tell Bob, "No, Bob, you're not coming in. I don't know who you've been around. I don't know if you've been exposed. Everybody in here is healthy. We don't know nothing about you right now. There's a building out back. You can stay in that building for 14 days. And if you're okay in 14 days, you can come in. But in the 14 days, if you become sick, you stay in the building and you do not come anywhere near us. And if you come near us, well, we're going to have to make sure you stay away." You're going to have to change the way you think. And you're going to have to be ready to turn away people that you know and people that you care about and people that's family members and friends. You're going to have to be ready to say no. And when it comes to this seclusion thing that they're proposing, if you have people in your family who insist on getting out and going and being with the party and with the crowd, you're going to have to be in a position to tell them, if you leave and you go hang out in these crowds, you don't come back here. Because if you let them back in and they have it, guess what? Everybody in your compound is going to have it. You're going to have to be prepared to do these things. So the first thing you're going to have to do is prepare your mind. Because if your mind is not prepared, nothing else that you do is going to work. And I've already decided, and I explained this to my family, if I start feeling ill, I'm going to quarantine myself to the back, and we'll see how it goes in 14 days. And if I pass away in 14 days, I hope that somebody will step up and take the place, lead the charge to keep everybody else safe. People, make no mistake about it. We are facing a very dire situation right now. And all of these people, these naysayers on Facebook that's telling you it's just the flu, they're going to be the ones that's responsible for the spread, and they're going to be responsible for a lot of deaths. So you need to get that apathy out of your mind. If you're one of them that has the apathy, you need to get it out of your mind right now. And you need to prepare for this as if it was the most dangerous thing on earth. It may not be. We may come to find out that this passes over quickly, and God forbid we lose a lot of people. It may pass over quickly. And if it does, then what if you lost? I mean, you just gained a bunch of supplies so you can be ready for something next time if it hits. But what if that small percentage of a chance that this is actually the pandemic that is going to erase a lot of people from this globe? What if you didn't prepare? What if you turn out to be one of those statistics? Then you're done. Your family, they're going to be left behind. They're not going to be able to make it. They'll succumb to the virus next. Because if you have apathy now, obviously you're not concerned, so you probably haven't taught them about how to survive something like this. So they'll die off second. What if? Think about that. Prepare now as if this is the worst thing that we've ever faced. You know, we're tossing around the word pandemic right now, and it's been labeled as a pandemic. And a lot of people don't understand what a pandemic is. I mean, for God's sake, most of this young generation nowadays couldn't even tell you who the vice president is or was, let alone define what a pandemic is. And that's what scares me. This is not just a disease. It's not an epidemic. It's a pandemic. That means this thing is global. And there's going to be a lot of loss of life. And we look at pandemics that have taken place over recorded human history, like the plague of Athens, which was 430 to 426 BC. That plague there killed out a quarter of the population over a 4-year span. In 165 to 180 AD was when we had the Antonine plague. I think I pronounced that right. 165 to 180 AD. And they were estimating around 5,000 people a day were dying. Black Death from 1331 to 1353 killed an estimated 20 to 30 million people. The Spanish flu from 1918 to 1920, it infected 500 million people around the world. And it resulted from, I think it was 100 million dead. And we're using that term again, pandemic. And here's the scary thing. I did some math here today. And right now I think we have, 1,200 cases. So let's figure that, 1,200. If those 1,200 people come in contact with 10 people, let's say only 5 of those people got infected. Okay, 1,200 times 5, let's say within a week, you're looking at 6,000 people within a week. And those people just came in contact with 10 people, and only 5 got infected. So again, times 5, you're looking at 30,000 people by the second week. By the third week, you're looking at 150,000. By the fourth week, 750,000. By the fifth week, you'd be up to 3,750,000. And I think it's estimated by the time you hit the 10th week, you're going to be looking at around 9 billion people. If I figured that correctly, that's alarming. There's only 7.3 billion people on the planet. And if this thing continues at that stage of 5 people each being infected by each person, in 10 weeks, more people than we have on the earth. 9 billion. Actually, let me back up. I just run the numbers on that as I was talking here. 11,718,750,000 people. Are you getting it now? Do you understand the scope of this thing? I think the last number that I got globally was 126,000. Excuse me, 126,369 people. So let's crunch the numbers on that. Let's say that 126,369 people only infects 2 people. Let's just figure that 2. All right, you're at 252,000 in the first week. Second week, you're at 500,000 people. By the time you hit the 5th week mark, you're looking at around 315 million people. And that's, of course, that's just an estimate that I'm pulling up off the top of my head. But the important thing here, the point is, we have to start preparing now as if this is going to be the most serious thing we've seen in the last 300 years. Just about 4 hours ago, headlines came out that Americans moved towards shutdown as the spread of coronavirus reached global pandemic status on Wednesday. Some of the most famous American institutions and companies announced dramatic operational changes. That ranges from Harvard University advising students not to return to college after spring break begins this weekend and taking all their classes online, to Google telling all of its employees in North America, Europe, Middle East, and Africa to work from home until at least the 10th of April. Seattle announced it would close all of its public schools for 2 weeks from Thursday, the first large city in the U.S. to shut down its school systems, which will affect nearly 50,000 children in more than 100 schools. Chicago joined the ranks of cities around the world by scrapping its St. Patrick's Day parade. And the World Health Organization confirms the pandemic. It's reinforcing what many of the experts in the U.S. have been saying for some time, urging vulnerable populations to stay home and avoid unnecessary social gatherings. The naysayers, those who have apathy, they're the ones that's spreading this. They're going out and they're going into the public regardless with the mindset that this is just the flu. All we have to do if we get sick is take cold medicine and flu medicine. We'll be fine. And that's what's going to destroy us is people like that. You have to change your mindset right now. If you're listening to this podcast, if you stuck with me this far, you're stupid if you don't change your mindset and start taking this serious. And you need to think real serious about what I said earlier. You're going to have to become a different person. You see, I started writing on a book, and there was a character in this book, and I based that character on my own mentality, my own mindset, how I would approach this situation. And I'm the kind of person I would approach this. I mean, I would have sympathy for people who are dying. But if I have a bug out location and my compound's got 25 or 30 people in it, I'm going to guard those people viciously. If you show up and I tell you, look, Frank, I've known you for years, man. Don't come any closer. I don't know where you've been. I don't know if you're infected or not. Don't come any closer. And Frank keeps walking. I'm going to tell him, Frank, you need to stop. We've known each other for a long time. Don't make me do what I'm fixing to do. But if Frank keeps walking, I'm going to turn Frank off. And that's the mindset you're going to have to get. Now, a lot of people are behind the game right now. They don't have the supplies gathered up. 60% of Americans are not prepared. And out of those that are prepared, probably only 10% of those have done it right. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have enough food set back for, I keep hitting my microphone, I apologize. I don't have enough food set back right now to last me more than 3 months. We'll be really, really scraping by. But the difference is I have means of getting food if I need to. I have survival snares, I have traps, I have ammunition. I know where the deer, the rabbit are, I know where the beavers are, I know where the food is. I can go get it. The problem is going to be all the other miscellaneous things that's going to be needed, like medications. Those are going to be hard to come by. I have a father who's on oxygen. What if things get so bad that we can't pay the electric bill? And the power companies are going to start cutting people off. They're not going to care. If you can't work, if your place of business has been closed down and you can't work, how are you going to pay your bills? You think the power company's just going to let you slide? I don't know. Maybe the government will step in. Maybe there'll be some sort of presidential order that tells the power companies, no, you can't cut these people off until we get a handle on this virus. But what if the government doesn't do that? Are you prepared to go at it without electricity? Have you thought all this through? What about water? Where are you going to get it? How are you going to store it? That's when panic is going to set in. Technology is going to start shutting down. I was just seeing on CBS News where a lot of the components to build our computers and our phones and our TVs and things of that nature, where does most of those components come from? China. Hello. And China is shut down. China is in serious condition right now. Those supplies are going to start running out. And when they do, the prices of things are going to skyrocket. So how long is it going to take before it starts affecting your communication, your everyday way of life? Probably not very long. And so we're coming up on the 25-minute mark on this podcast. I don't want to drag it out much longer. I think you have probably heard enough at this point to begin realizing that we're on the verge of shit hitting the fan. And there's a lot of naysayers out there. I want to leave you with this, and I really want you to listen to this last part. There are a lot of naysayers out there that are going to tell you you have nothing to worry about. This is the media hyping things up? Okay, let's stop for a minute and let's think. Why would the media hype this globally? If this has anything to do with election, why would they hype this up globally? And you need to consider what would be the ramifications of hyping this up globally to the very people that you're saying caused it or hyped it up. All of these problems that we're talking about, the lack in supplies, the breakdown of logistics, is going to affect them as well. Higher prices, hard to get medications, everything's going to affect them. It's not going to affect just this country here in America. It's going to affect the world. So it's stupid for somebody to spin this out of control globally. And then to perpetrate it to the point that the CDC and the World Health Organization are in on it? Really? Do you believe that? That the CDC and the World Health Organization is going to come out and spread fear to break down the world? If you believe that, you're a total moron. You're an idiot. You're one of the people that's going to help bring down the world. So you need to stop. If you're still listening to this and you're one of those that have apathy, you need to stop. And if you know people, if you believe what I'm telling you and you know people who have apathy, you need to tell it to them the same way I'm saying it to you. You need to tell them, you need to stop. You need to wake the hell up and realize that we're facing a situation globally that could potentially kill off at least a quarter of our population. And that is around the world. That's not just here in America. That's around the world. You need to explain to them, this does not make sense for people to hype this fear globally and crash everything when they depend on it themselves. This is a serious situation. This is a serious threat. And we've only scratched the surface. I want you to pay real close attention in the next 2 weeks, because you're going to see the number in America rise greatly in the next 2 weeks. And when we see that number, when this number doubles, the amount of infected people doubles, we're going to start seeing mandatory shutdown. We're going to end up seeing National Guard being deployed into different cities. And then your apathy will have become realization, and your realization will then progress into fear. Thank you guys that stuck with me this far. If you have, then I know you're one of the people that believes in what I'm saying. You believe that we're headed for hard times. Try to spread the word to everybody else out there and let them know this coronavirus, it's not something being spun out of control. It's deadly, 10 times deadlier than the flu. And if we don't take it serious, a lot of people are going to die. This could be the shit hit the fan that we've been waiting on. And in the next podcast, we'll go over a little bit more in-depth things that you should probably do to prepare in the next coming weeks. And I hope to get that one out within the next few days. Again, thank you for listening. This is Roger with Snare Trap Surviving in the Outdoors. Be safe out there.